Hi guys, my name is Evabe and welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I will be grocery shopping and taking y'all along with the ride. I'm going to be doing online shopping. I have the tendency to overspend when I go into the stores, so I like to do it online so that I can monitor what I'm putting into my carts and make sure I don't overspend. So my budget for food is $150. That's a very tight budget. What I like to do is split it into 75 for 1 week or the first half of the month, 75 for the second half of the month. So very limited budget, very tight budget, and I need to squeeze out as much food and products that I can for a span of 15 days essentially. So I'm gonna take you along for the journey, and I'm gonna show you how I do that. So first things first is I typically try to look for a new meal idea. So I have my staples, my cheap foods that I eat on a regular basis that I know are going to be cheap, that I know are going to be affordable, and basically stick to that. But I like to eat something different. I don't like to eat the same thing every single day. So I'll typically go to Pinterest to go and see some new meal ideas. For this new meal is gonna be shrimp scampi with garlic bread that I am gonna be eating as my new meal for this half of the week. So now we're gonna, so I'll use the Walmart app. That's a cheap place that I can get my food delivered. So we're gonna get some shrimp. Most of the time when I'm looking through the list of options that they have, I am looking for ounces to cents or cents to ounces, trying to find the lowest cents to ounces possible. So we're gonna add some shrimp. The recipe called for some chicken stock instead of buying chicken stock, because what I tend to notice when I do when I buy chicken stock is it ends up going to waste because I don't cook that often. I'm only cooking 2 times in a month. So what I like to do, or what I came across a video from somebody else that does, like, their whole video is basically grocery shopping and making affordable meals. What she does is basically get chicken bouillon and water and basically turns that into a chicken broth. So I saw that and I was like, okay, that's actually pretty easy to do and it's cheap to do. Plus I don't have to worry about using all the chicken stock at once because I'm only cooking 2 times in a month. So we're getting some chicken bouillon. Again, looking at the lowest cents per ounce ratio. The recipe also called for some butter, olive oil, and some garlic cloves, which I have in the house, so I am not going to be repurchasing those. And of course, garlic toast is another piece of this meal. I'm just gonna buy it outright, find the cheapest cent to ounce ratio, and we're gonna just toss that in the cart and call it a day. So I'm getting is energy drinks. We're gonna get a few energy drinks. Usually I drink these typically at work. I don't drink them at the house. So this is for me to pack up when I go on to work. Now that we've went through the new meals and got the drinks out the way, now I'm going in to get the staples. So for this food budget for this half of the month, I have remaining out of the 150 is $84.70. I'm checking my budget right now. I'm checking my checkout list right now to see if I went over. We haven't went over, so I'm gonna continue shopping. The first thing I'm gonna get is ground turkey. Now the ground turkey, I like to use it for my little burritos. As I came across a video and I saw that and I was like, that looks very simple, very easy. And it looks like it will be tasty. So we're gonna get some ground turkey. That's the cheapest out of the types of meats that you can typically, or ground meats that you could typically get from the store. So I like to stick to the ground turkey. I don't have any taco seasoning. I ran out, so we're going to get us a big case of that. Again, looking at the cheapest cheapest cent to ounce ratio. Then I'm going to get some cheese slices, the pre-cut cheese slices. I like to get the pre-cut cheese slices. It's just very easy to manage, and I don't know why it's cheaper. I would have thought that would be more expensive to get them individually sliced, and then on top of that having them individually in its own paper, but apparently it's not. It's cheaper. Even if that wasn't the case for that, I would pay a little more for the convenience because it makes it easier. Again, looking at the ounce or the cent per ounce ratio, we're looking for the lowest one when we do that. Now, onions, anything that comes with like fresh vegetables, so that'd be peppers, my onions, like bananas, apples, fruits, oranges. I like to get what I need for that week because I typically just, it ends up going bad. So I don't like buying them in bulk anymore. I just buy what I need for that particular period of time. Okay, so we've added a lot of stuff to our grocery cart, so I'm gonna go in and check to make sure that I'm within the budget, which I am. So we're gonna continue on to my next staple. The next staple I have is greens with some sausage. So we're gonna buy some sausage. I do have some sausage left over, but I won't have enough to cook the amount of green beans that I would like to cook. So we're gonna add a pack of sausages to the cart. Next thing we're doing is buying some chicken wings. Now, I usually stick with chicken breast because it's cheaper. Also, it's a healthier option. But I did have some leftover dry rub for some chicken wings in the house, and I wanted to use them. So that's why we're going to get some chicken wings this time. For chicken wings, I'm of course going to be looking at the lowest cent to pound or cent to ounce ratio to get that. So with chicken wings, that's not something I typically get. So we're gonna check the grocery cart real quick, and I am over budget. So we're gonna take down some of the turkey that I have because I bought a lot of turkey, ground turkey. And now we're in the budget. So we're gonna continue on and get some green beans. Some green beans. I'm gonna get a few cans of green beans. Next thing we're gonna get are some black eyed peas. Now, depending on what I'm cooking, I might get canned or I might get canned is typically cheaper. I don't know why it's cheaper, but for some reason it is cheaper to get canned versus the dried black eyed peas. So we're just gonna stick with the canned black eyed peas for right now. For those, I like to make refried beans. That's the only way I'll eat beans. I'll eat baked beans, but what I find with baked beans is y'all Americans like to put sugar in it, and I can taste the sweetness. And to me, beans isn't meant to be quote unquote sweet. So I forgot some diet sodas. So we're gonna go back to the drink section and we're gonna restock on some sodas. All right, so we're gonna, so with the final adjustments to get us right back into budget, that totals out to be $81.85. Now this includes not only the food, but the delivery fee, which is $9.95 plus the taxes. And the remainder, which is like $2 or so, is just gonna be going to tip towards the driver, which will complete it at the total of $150. So now I need to shop for work. We're doing a little gathering food thing for the holidays. So I I was asked to make some fufu, so that is what we are going to be making. First things first is get some mashed potatoes. I'm gonna use that for the fufu. Need to pick up some saran wrap to wrap them up individually. Next thing I'm gonna get is to get some beef chucks. The beef chucks is gonna be one of the assortment of meats that I will be putting in the vegetable stew. Gonna get some lamb. I'm getting lamb breast. I've not cooked lamb before. I've usually used goat, but it's gonna be expensive to get goat. But I looked up online and they said lamb is a kind of an equivalent of the substitute for goat. So we're gonna stick with lamb and cross fingers that it's gonna turn out good. Next, I need these habanero peppers. So we're gonna pick up some of those and some onions. Now I got onions for the house, so this onions is gonna be for the cooking. I don't know how much we're gonna get, so we're just gonna tap it out. Hopefully I don't go over. But we have some eggs at the house, so if I do, I can do some onions with some eggs and call it a day. Next thing is catfish, which I'm gonna end up smoking this. That's the plan for that. I was thinking about the 2 batches, but one of the people who's allergic to seafood is not gonna be there, so I'm not gonna do the splitting of that anymore. I'm just gonna put it all in one, because originally I was gonna be like, oh my gosh, she's gonna be there, she's gonna want to try it, I would have to split it, but she said she's not gonna be working, so it'll be fine. I got the greens that we're gonna use is collard greens, so we're getting some of that. I am gonna get some kale, getting some of that, and the spinach is gonna be majority of what this stew is made of, or soup. Soup. I always use those words interchangeably. I don't know if they can be used interchangeable. My mama says no, it can't. So but I've always grown up using them interchangeable because I'm like, aren't they the same thing? And I'm not really about to fight it. Next thing I'm gonna need to do is get some aluminum foil pans. With all that being said, that's gonna be our total cost. But that's how I grocery shop. Basically, I get, first things first is put the new meal into the grocery shop, into the buggy. Next thing to do is to shop for my staples and maybe some things that I have inside the house to accommodate or go with what I have as my staples. Next things are drinks, and that's all that happens. I'm gonna end up adding a new category to my budget because I didn't have a budget for work dinner specifically, and I don't want it to go into food because it's not going to be necessarily for the house and for me to be eating. So I'm going to create its own budget and we're going to just figure it out. But with that being said, now let's get into the cooking portion of this video.
Before we start, please excuse the video quality. I don't know what I did, but it's shiny and glary and horrible. And I couldn't record me cooking this. So, what I'm starting off with first is smoked catfish, which is going to go in the vegetable stew for the fufu. And this was going to be cooked for the Friendsgiving at work. This is what made me go over budget with food because I wasn't expecting to cook something so pricey. Anyways, we're going to start off with the smoked fish. They were frozen, so I started off with a very high heat to try to melt all the ice. Then I took out the catfish after maybe 15 minutes or 20 minutes or so. to drain the pan to make sure the pan was dry again. I tossed them back into the oven and put it at 200 or so, and then had that sit in there for an hour while I was prepping some of the food that I was going to eat for the house. Then we started the grill after the hour or hour and 30 minutes or so, the grill. And yeah, that's all I did for the smoked catfish, I think. And yes, I do use gloves when I cook for people that are outside the family. So, yeah. The grill, it took maybe 3 or 4 hours, and basically just made sure the grill was smoky. I kept coming out and in the house to check it, but I didn't record all of that. So, while I have the salmon cooking, I start off cooking the things for the house, which the first 3 things we're cooking are sausage and corn, some green beans with sausage, and some refried beans. So I start off with cutting up sausages and having that cooked. Once those sausages are done cooking, I take out the sausages and leave that extra little oil, fatty substance that's left over. And we start with the baked beans, which I'll put in a tablespoon of butter into that mixture. Have that butter melt in the pot. Once that is melted, I chop up some onions and jalapenos and put that inside of the pot. Have that cook on a very high heat, then lower it down. I like to make sure it's still a little crunchy. So I like to actually still see the onions. I don't like to cook it all the way to the point that it's clear. Then we get the beans, open the can of beans, pour the suckers in, and have that come to a boil. Once it starts boiling, I'll then add some cheese. You can add some seasoning if needed. I usually don't if I'm using canned beans, but if I am using dry beans, I would add seasoning, but I use canned beans this time. So we did that. After that's done, I started opening up the can of green beans, had the green beans opened, poured that into a pot, just simple, let that thing boil, and then add the sausages after. Same thing with the corn. I actually steamed the corn, and then the same process. Once that's cooked through, just add the sausages since it's already done. Going back to the refried beans, once it comes to that boil, I add some cheese. And the reason I do that is when you add cheese, it dries up a lot of the water. So I don't like to add water until the cheese is added. Once I've added the cheese, I look at the pot. Do I want to mash the beans up a little more or not? Let's look at the texture. If it needs more water, then I'll add water after that, after the cheese has been added. But that's the process for the sausage and beans, the sausage and green beans, and refried beans. For the vegetable stew, I started with broth, which was water, chopped onions, garlic cloves, Maggi cubes. I used ginger spice, our seasoning, some all-purpose seasoning, some curry powder, used some thyme seasoning, and I put a little bit of black pepper in it. Then started up the blender, and I let it blend until it was smooth. Next, I grabbed the packs of the beef chunks and the lamb and just tossed it in a pot and poured in that mixture. And I let it cook on a medium heat for about an hour. Once that was all cooked through, I then separated it. It's easier to do with a strainer, but I don't have one. So I just separated the broth from the meat. Once that was separated, we started chopping up the veggies, The veggies that I used was mostly spinach. We put a bit of kale in there and some collard greens. I don't have that specific part recorded because at this time I was at a time crunch and it was time to get ready for work. So I couldn't record all of that. So once all that's chopped up, I tossed all those veggies into the broth and let that cook for about 10 minutes. I had added crayfish seasoning into that mixture and also added some palm oil. I let all the veggies cook for about 10 minutes in the pot. And then once it was cooked to my liking, I just tossed in the smoked catfish, the lamb, and the beef chunks into there and just mixed it all up so that everything would be mixed up. And for the fufu, what I did was I used a box of mashed potatoes and some water to make that. Right now I am prepping the meat for the burritos. Basically, I used the the turkey ground meat. Put in the pan, cook it until it's brown, and then I just tossed a whole bunch of taco seasoning in it just to make it not taste like turkey. But I really don't taste the difference regardless. It's banging, it's smacking to me. But that's all that is. Next up, I'm cooking some shrimp scampi. Now, this isn't one of my staples. This is one of the new foods I usually introduce because I can't eat the same thing every single day. So I try to introduce one new meal and then have my staples that are usually cheap and easy to make. Just call for some shrimp and butter and then fry them in there for a little bit. And then I had to make the scampi sauce, which was like chicken broth and some butter. And then they're going to go on some garlic toast. And I'm thinking about using some rice to be more filling. I don't know how to make chicken broth with, chicken bouillon. So I tried my best. It ended up real salty. So I'm going to just end up boiling a thing of rice and just not put any salt in it to just cut out some of the salt because it was too much for me. The last few things for the house are mashed potatoes and chicken wings. So I recorded the mashed potatoes, which is very simple. Water. I got some packets of mashed potatoes, dumped them in, stirred them real up, and packaged them away, tossed them in the fridge. Then the next thing was chicken wings, which I defrosted the bag of chicken wings. I tossed them in the air fryer, 10 minutes total, 5 minutes on each side, so they'd get dry and crispy. Then we got the leftover dry rub that I had in my fridge and tossed them in a bag. I shook those all up and then tossed those in the freezer. So whenever I want to eat some wings, all I have to do is toss them in the oven, cook them for about 10 to 15 minutes, and they're already crispy for me, which I absolutely love.
If you like this video, make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. If you have any ideas for me of what other vlog type subjects that I should cover, let me know, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.